What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Bourbon of the Week. My name's Chris. I'm going to be your host for today, and this is Bardstown Bourbon Week here on Bourbon of the Week. Today, we're going to go with their straight bourbon, which brings up a question from me to you, and I got to ask you guys. We have the rye, we have the bourbon, and then we have the wheated bourbon as well coming out of Bardstown Bourbon Company. My question is, why do we call this the bourbon and we call this the wheated bourbon? They're both bourbons. Now, I know rye is usually the secondary grain, but it seems like wheater is definitely coming up in the world, so I'm curious if we're ever going to change it from being a wheated bourbon versus just a bourbon. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of that. But today we're pouring up their bourbon. We've already reviewed their rye, so make sure you check out that video. I'll leave that in the link in the description below. I won't tell you exactly how it did, but you'll see it at the end here. We've also switched things up just a little bit here on Bourbon of the Week. Now, in the past, we've done all of our reviews and we've kept them all on the same ranking sheet, but we've decided to switch things up just a little bit. We're going to do an annual review from now on. Basically, I'll put all of the bourbons that I drink in 2023 on a list, but we'll only keep our top 10 list. The reason we're doing this is I realized over the years my tastes have changed, my preferences change. Maybe I used to like something and I don't love it that much anymore, or maybe I didn't like something and I do love it now, and I don't want you guys thinking that 3 years ago, if I didn't like something, that maybe I don't like it anymore. So I think an annual review will be fun. Then we can revisit year to year and see what I've liked and what I haven't liked. It's also going to make things very easy when I do my top 10 list of 2023, although last year I did something really fun where I basically went on Whiskey YouTube, I found everybody else's list, took their number one and put them up against each other, so I think I'm going to continue that since everybody else has their own list, and obviously you'll be able to see mine already. That being said, let's pour this bottle up right here. The best thing about this bottle is it tells us everything we need to know right on the side. But before we talk about all of that, make sure you stick around for the Bourbon Bomb of the Week. We're going to learn more about the Origin series in general, how it got its start, and basically how it's taking over the Fusion series. But everybody knows, time for the traditional sip. Cheers, y'all. It's not wheated. We got to move the bottle over here so the thumbnail looks good, but here we go. We've got Bardstown Bourbon Company, and everything we need to know, like I said, is right here on the label. The origin of this is Bardstown Bourbon Company. It is their own distillate. The age on this is 6 years old. The mash bill is 60% corn, 36% rye, and 4% malted barley. Distilled in fall of 2016, and this is coming in at a whopping 96 proof. So although we did change our ranking sheet system, we are not going to change the criteria. Price, taste, drinkability is how I got my start, and it's what we're going to continue with today. This bottle right here is 36% rye. The rye that we actually did was a 95.5 rye, so definitely less rye, but I'm still expecting a little bit of spice, and at 96 proof, we're going to start with drinkability and see how much ethanol is behind this glass. I do have to say I think this drink's a little bit easier than the rye did. Now on the 18th, we are going to team up with Gentleman and Whiskey and probably do a live stream and drink all three of these together. So I'm curious to see how they taste side by side by side. But at 96 proof with drinkability, which is talking about how much ethanol kick is there, is it underproofed? Is it overproofed? We give it an 8.0 if it drinks right at its proof. We did it slightly better for the rye, and I think we've got to go slightly better than that for the bourbon. Let's take one more sip and we'll give it a score. Now, by no means is 96 proof a high proof, at least not from what I've been drinking lately. When you're drinking 115, 120 proof consistently, 96 proof starts to seem like juice, and that's exactly what I get off this. The real question is, does it drink over its proof? And it definitely doesn't do that. I think I'm going to go slightly above an 8 right here. I'm going to go like an 8.25 when it comes to drinkability on this. Nothing crazy with an ethanol kick, a little bit of spice, but at 96 proof, I don't want to give it a great score, so an 8.25 seems pretty fair. And up next, as you know, that's going to bring us into taste on this bottle. And taste on this bottle for me is kind of weird. Not that the taste is weird, because it's definitely good to drink, but it's just, I don't know which way I want to lean on this when I come to a score. I will tell you, you get very good vanillas, a very good caramel note on this, some sweet oak, some cinnamon, that rye spice. Then I almost get like an orange zest at the end, which reminds me more of like an old fashioned or something like that. Now, I do think this bottle would be great in an old-fashioned, and we're going to talk about price in just a little bit, and you can decide whether or not if you think it deserves to be in an old-fashioned mixer. I don't personally, because I think Bardstown is a better brand than old-fashioned mixer, but I will say this about this particular glass. I feel like I'm hunting for these flavors, right? They're not bold, they're not in your face, they're kind of watered down, right? It's 96 proof. I'd be very interested to see what this tastes like at cask strength or something like that. I think it would punch you in your face. The flavors are fantastic. Again, you're just kind of looking for them a little bit. But it does also have a long finish, right? When you do get the flavors, they stay there. It's just a matter of finding them. And in this glass, it's a little bit harder to do that. Let's take one more sip and we'll give it a score. Now here's the deal. Do I think this is knock your socks off the best whiskey you've ever had in your life? I don't think so. Do I think Bardstown is trying to market it as that? I don't think that either. This is a solid whiskey. It's 6 years old. It's 36% rye, and we're going to talk about price in a little bit, but it's not outlandish. I think everything that you're getting here is exactly what you would expect. The 96 proof drink's pretty easy. When it comes to the taste, all the flavors are there. It just seems a little bit watered down because, again, it is. But at the end of the day, it's a very solid whiskey. There's nothing wrong with it. It gives you all of those bourbon notes that you're expecting. If I was a new bourbon drinker and you handed me this, I would say, yeah, this tastes pretty good and it tastes like bourbon. So I can't really knock it for that. Let's give this a score of like, I don't know, mid 8s, low 8s, 8.13 when it comes to taste on this. If we're calling 7.0 average, I think 8.13 is a pretty fair spot for this. But I will say, I feel like in the past for my reviews, I've started to incorporate price into taste. I would say, hey, this tastes great for a blank price tag. But we do price on its own for a reason, and this bottle comes in at $44.99, which is why I kind of said it's not an awful price point if you did want to mix this, but let's take another sip and see what we think about $44.99 for a price tag. So when it comes to price, I do like to compare these bottles to other bottles in that price point. But first, we have to know what we're looking at. We have a 6-year-old whiskey. There's plenty of other whiskey out there that has a 6-year-old age statement. Even if it's not written on the bottle, we've seen other stuff come out of the press that tells us it's 6 years old. We also have the first Bardstown Bourbon Company stuff that's coming out with only their whiskey before they blended a lot of their other stuff with older whiskey from other distilleries that can hide that youthful note and maybe hide some impurities in their own whiskey. But right now, this is in your face, front and center, all Bardstown Bourbon Company, and at $45, I don't think it's the worst price tag. I do think there are other things out there on the market at $45, $50 that may be better than this, but I'm definitely excited about what they're doing right here, and I don't think it's a bad price at all, especially for something that I think Bardstown has the reputation for to put out at a higher price. So, since they're not price gouging, since this still has good drinkability and a pretty good taste, let's give it a pretty good score when it comes to price. I think we should stay right in the low 8s when it comes to this, just like we did with taste and drinkability. I do think the price is better than the rye. The rye was like $20 more, and while the flavor was maybe a little bit better, this is more of a generic flavor, while that offered you something a little bit different because of the finish on that. I do think a low 8s is perfect for this. Let's go like 8.17 when it comes to price on this. But listen, while I add these scores up, let's send it over this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week and learn a little bit more about how the Origin series got its start. Cheers. So I don't want to talk long during this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week, but I do just want to kind of tell you that they are discontinuing the Fusion series. So if you've been a fan of the Fusion series, which I was, I've tried the 4, I've tried the 5, and I believe I had a sample of the 8 as well. All of them were very good, but basically what the Fusion series was doing was buying them time at Bardstown to get their distillate old enough to be able to put it out without blending. So Bardstown Bourbon Company is obviously one of the best blenders on the market because they've practiced it for so long, and they continue to do that with their Discovery series and their Collaborative series. The Fusion series, I'm sad to see it go because I loved so many of the products that they put out with it, but they told you right on the side of the bottle, maybe it had a Kentucky 13 year in there, Kentucky 12 year in there, and then maybe some younger stuff from Bardstown, maybe like a 4 or 5 year in there, because they were waiting to get it old enough to put it out on their own, and I think they've waited just long enough because 6 years is a very good wait to get this product out to market. And listen, I don't think there was anything wrong with Bardstown Bourbon Company whiskey at 4 or 5 years old, but they obviously made an executive decision to wait until 6 years to put out their own whiskey without blending it with anything else, and it seems like a very good spot for it. It'll be exciting to see when they start to put out some older stuff on their own, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12-year-old whiskey coming out of Bardstown Bourbon Company, because if they can blend their own stuff the way they blended other people's stuff, they're going to have some damn good whiskey in the future, and they've got some damn good stuff right now. So cheers to you, Bardstown Bourbon Company. You did it the right way. But hey, if you've made it this far in the video, make sure you click that like and that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. This bottle came in at an 8.13, just squeaking ever so slightly ahead of the rye, and I think that's probably a fair spot, mainly because of that price point. Again, I understand that 95.5 rye is probably a little bit more expensive to make, especially when you add that secondary finishing process that I absolutely love to learn about, and make sure you check out that video because that Bourbon Bomb of the Week was one of my favorite that I ever put together. But an 8.13 is a very respectable spot for this. I'm curious though, because I think I like the wheated the best, if that's going to do better or worse than these two bottles right now. And listen, the only way you're going to find out about that is if you tune in tomorrow for our Bardstown Bourbon Company finale here on Bourbon of the Week. Make sure you check me out on Instagram at Bourbon of the Week. Go click that follow button over there. Check out our Discord. Come chat with us 24/7. Our Patreon page, that link in the description below. Come check out the Patreon. We have a lot of cool things, a lot of cool perks just for patrons. Please don't drink and drive. Always drink responsibly and stay healthy, stay happy, stay drinking. Cheers, y'all. Imagine this at cast strength.